Hi, I'm Olian, and I'm once again experimenting with microalgae. Today, I am back in my basement lab. I'm here to start my newest experiment. See, I think for the past 2 months now, my wastewater experiment has been pretty much done. I've gotten all the results I need, and I've had a lot of success with the experiment. I won some awards, and just last week I was at the National Science Fair. But now that it's all done, I'm ready to get on a new experimenting adventure. And that's what I'm working on with my next experiment, which is using this thing called a Pioreactor. I talked about it in a couple of my previous vlogs, but basically the Pioreactor is this tiny version of a bioreactor. A bioreactor being a tank you can use to grow algae. I've got one here. But the Pioreactor is just a much smaller version of that one. Now, I reached out to Cameron Davidson Pylon, who runs the Pioreactor company, and he offered to give me a free Pioreactor, which I picked up, I think, almost 3 weeks ago. And I just haven't been at home enough in order to assemble it. So I'm finally getting to assemble my Pioreactor and start on this new experiment. So this is the Pioreactor box that I got a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna open it up and see what's inside. I also have this box from the Pi Shop, which is a place here in Ottawa that sells Raspberry Pis, which is a miniature computing device that's needed for the Pioreactor. So I picked that up a couple weeks ago as well. Still haven't opened it. So I'm gonna open up both these things and see what's inside. Okay, I've opened up all the parts of this Pioreactor. There's a bunch of stuff in front of me that frankly I don't really know how to set up yet. That's what the instructions are for. But I just want to make a quick comment. This thing looks so cool. This is basically a fully 3D printed bioreactor shell. It's got a vial to go with it. It's got a tiny magnetic stir bar on the inside. It's got a cap with all these vials. I'm really excited to figure out how to build this, first of all, but also just really excited to see what I can do with this experiment as I build it out. So my next step is going to be to go to the Pioreactor getting started page, which should have all the instructions I need to build this out. I'm gonna start building, and as I go along, I'll see what the different steps are and I'll vlog it as I go along. So, I have done the first step of putting together this Pioreactor, which is attaching the Raspberry Pi and the hat PCB. To be honest, I'm not fully sure what these controls do, although I'm pretty sure the Raspberry Pi is just a general miniature computing device, and the hat PCB is all the functions that the Pioreactor specifically needs. And by connecting the two, we can use the Raspberry Pi to control the PCB, which will control the Pioreactor in general. So essentially what I've done here is I've stacked the Raspberry Pi at the bottom of this plate, and then on top of it up here, got the hat PCB on top of that Raspberry Pi over there. And that's basically the first step done. I'm gonna move on to the next step. Okay, so now I've assembled the vial holder, which you can see here, and on the inside of this, on the bottom side of this cap, is the heating element, the thing that's going to be able to heat the vial, and this is the vial that this vial holder will hold. It slips right in like that. And coming out of this is just a connection to the thermal column as well. So the next step, I believe, is to connect this thing that I built with this thing that I built to make the whole Pioreactor work. And now I have finished the Pioreactor. Check it out. I screwed the vial holder and put the vial in on top of the hat PCB I built before. And around the same time, I also added in all the LED lights and everything I'll need to control it. So really, this full thing is assembled. Now all I need to do is install some software and set up my actual experiment and get the algae in here as well. But this is great. I'm actually surprised at how easy this was to build. It took me like maybe an hour and a half. So huge thanks to Cameron at Pioreactor for giving me this thing for free and creating such an awesome, cool product. I feel like a mad scientist after building this. So I'm going to be running a really cool algae experiment in this relating to how we can control their day and night cycles with different amounts of light. And I'll be explaining more about that in my next video when I set up the software and get the algae in here. But until then, subscribe down below, follow on LinkedIn, and I will see you in the next one.